So you're thinking of quitting your job, or maybe you're thinking of quitting your job at some point in the next year or so and you're not sure how to go about it. In this video, I'm going to share the step-by-step of how I plan to quit my nursing job in exactly 1 year. So at one point, I had a feeling that I wasn't going to last in my nursing job forever. In 2021, I experimented with a lot of ways on how to make money online, and finally, a year later, I had quit my nursing job, and my main source of income is through freelance writing. Hi there, my name is Trine, and on this channel, I explore topics on writing, personal development, and making money in a way that feels good, and I hope that you follow me along this journey. A couple of disclaimers, or 3 disclaimers before we go into this video. Number 1, even though I say it's a step-by-step, I just kind of structure that so that it's easy for you to follow along. However, obviously this isn't going to be a blueprint for when you quit your job, but this is more so just for your information of what are the steps that I took for me to get here. The second thing is that these steps actually work for me. It might not work for you, and that's totally okay. There are some things that you might agree with or not agree with, or you might have a different way to go about it. That's sort of fine, but the purpose of this is to give you an option and also an idea on how to go about it. The third disclaimer is that I am talking about nursing specifically in this video because that's the industry that I'm more familiar with. However, I feel that the steps are relatable and generalized enough for you that even if you're stuck in your other career, you can still apply the steps. Without further ado, let's get right into it. The very first step in quitting your job is deciding that you're not going to be in nursing forever. You don't have to quit in 1 year or even 2 years, but just deciding that you're not going to be in this career forever is going to be a very strong anchor for you to go through this whole process. So why is this important? Because it's the biggest motivation that you're going to have when you go through this journey. If you're saying that like, oh, I'm not really sure, I can handle it, I can tolerate it, it's not going to work, because you're not going to want to do the things that you need to do in order to take the steps to actually move away from the career path that you're in. So how do you actually decide to do this? Well, number 1, you need to figure out how you get motivated. If you're more keen to avoiding pain, then maybe you need to imagine yourself that in the next 5-10 years, I'm still going to be in nursing. How does that feel for you? For me, when I did that, it was a very painful, excruciating thought and idea, and I just couldn't handle it. So I almost had to hold on to that thought. Every time I had wanted to give up, I thought about that, and it was just not cutting it for me. Or maybe you're more of a seeking pleasure type, so maybe you can imagine yourself. What does it feel like not being in nursing anymore in the next year or so? You're free, you're not doing night shifts, you're not doing 12-hour shifts, you can actually spend holidays with your family. If those images attract you to being more motivated in the future, then hold on to those thoughts. So it's really important that you first decide and commit to the idea of not being in nursing forever. The second step is figuring out your personal interests. So this step is really important, especially if you have multiple interests, or as I like to call it, a multi-passionate. I learned this from Marie Forleo. She calls herself a multi-passionate entrepreneur, and I call myself a multi-passionate creator. This is important because you need to figure out your interests. I could tell you to be a freelance writer, but what if you don't like writing? I could tell you to start a YouTube channel, but what if you don't like making videos? There are so many ways to make money online that it doesn't even matter what path you choose. The most important thing is that you have to figure out your own personal interests. So how do you do this? Number 1, list all the things that you enjoy doing, preferably when no one's watching. So what are the things that you would do if you weren't on social media? What are the things you enjoy, things that you would do regardless whether someone knew about it or not? A lot of the times we're so used to engaging and experiencing with the thoughts of, I have to share this on social media. So I'd actually did an Instagram detox for 4 months in 2020. That really helped me a lot with this whole process. So that's the second tip, is go on social media detox. Once you figure out the activities that you enjoy, I would rate them from 0 to 10 of how much do I enjoy doing this, from 0 being least enjoyable to 10 being the most enjoyable in your free time. The next step is picking out the interests or activities that bring you the most joy without worrying about money or anything else. And don't worry if you have multiple interests, that's totally okay, but it's important that you rate them. So the 5th tip I have is to start reading or watching videos about these activities activities and how these people make money online. You might not necessarily have to do them right away. Just giving yourself that there's people out there doing these things can be a motivation for you. This really helps you open up your mind to the opportunities out there, because you have probably been stuck in this tunnel vision that you're in nursing and you have a pretty straightforward career path from here. But if you want to get out of that vision, this is where the internet comes in at your disposal. You can start researching with blogs or YouTube channel and all of that, and there's plenty of things there. The third step is to use your motivation and interest to be your guide. Even if you pick one interest, it's probably not going to be where you end up in 1 year. But picking an interest from the very beginning is crucial, because it will help you get the ball rolling. So it will help you be unstuck, because that's how I felt. I felt really stuck in my nursing career path. When I was in nursing, going through this whole process, I started a new travel Instagram account because, again, that was my interest at the time. I already had a lot of travel photos, so I started uploading them. I started learning about Instagram, and I realized that I actually did not want to be a travel influencer from that process. And at that point, I pivoted into coaching. I actually purchased my very first online course, which is Boss Gram Academy by Vanessa Lau. And after going through that process again, I realized I didn't like it either. So again, I had to pivot, and that's when I started doing writing. As you can see, I'm not a travel influencer now, but it had started there and it got me the ball rolling. I just kept going until to where I am now. How do you use your motivation or your interests to guide you? Well, first, use the strongest interest that you have. So even if you have 10 interests from that list, you can pivot along the way, but you have to pick one. Use that as your anchor for now. And the second thing is to learn. If you're nursing, then you might have some extra income that you can use to actually invest in yourself, in courses, in coaches, or if you want to go to Google University where everything is pretty much free, that's also an option too. But this is the time for you to start opening your mind to different opportunities out there that's not necessarily offline but online. But this is the time again for you to use your interests to guide you, because you're going to be responsible for your own future. Nobody's going to tell you where to be, what to do, and this is also the time to practice that. The fourth step is picking out one interest and going all in for 6 months. The hardest thing about this whole process is picking one interest and 2, staying at it. So as you can see, I made a lot of pivots before I ended up with writing. So I went from travel influencing to coaching to writing. I could afford to do that because I had my cushion job, which is nursing. If you were watching this, then you probably have that too. You have the flexibility. So this is the time where you need to start thinking, how can I take advantage of the current circumstance that I have right now, especially if you're a nurse, because even though we're not getting paid for the money that we deserve, we still kind of earn more than the average income of someone else, and you have the flexibility, things that I do love about nursing still. So this part is really all about researching, like, how much money can you make off of your interest. During my research, I found out that travel influencers make about $1,500, travel bloggers make about $1,000 a month, mindset coaches make about $2,800 to $8,000, and freelance writers make about $5,000 a month. Just from looking at my personal interests, these were the things that I was kind of looking at, like, how much can you make money off of this thing that I might want to pursue. My biggest goal at the time was to make 10K a month. Ridiculous, I still haven't achieved that, but I am on my way there, right? It's not going to be overnight, but you do have to take the action today to make it happen. So as you can see, these are all different industries, from traveling to coaching to writing, that makes over $1,000 a month. And obviously when you have more experience, that number will increase. It's a very good practice for you to start seeing how are these people doing it and how can I get started. The problem is that a lot of people give up right away. I did this too. When I started my coaching, I hadn't even had any paying clients. I had given up after a couple of months. And I realized I didn't want to be a travel influencer because I didn't want to monetize my love for travel. That's one passion that I don't really want to monetize, at least not yet. When I found writing, that's really when I thought, oh, I could monetize this. I like writing for myself, but I also like writing for money. So I kind of find the best of both worlds with that interest, and it's going to take you a while to find that. So during this step, you have to answer difficult questions. For example, can you invest all your free time doing this one interest? And number two, how long are you willing to invest in this interest until you're able to monetize it? And number three, will you give it your all by believing that you could actually do it? For me, it took about 4 months before I found writing, and then I wrote for free for another 6 months, and then after that I decided that I wanted to monetize it by freelance writing, and that's when I got the ball rolling of how do you make money writing. So it might take you longer than a month or 2 or 3 to pick an interest, but the most important thing is that you pick one and figure out for yourself whether you like it or not, and then move on, versus getting stuck in this whole analysis paralysis where you're just like, do I want this or do I want that? It's better to pick one, realize you don't like it, and then move on. That brings us to step 5, which is experimenting while you have your cushion job. This is probably the hardest part of all, because this is where you're going to put yourself out there. You're going to put yourself in the real world doing things that you're not comfortable with. This is where you'll feel like you're not good enough to do these things. This is where you'll feel scared. I remember when I opened my travel Instagram account, I wanted to talk about my story, but for some reason I was so scared. I thought I was going to be judged. It was this lady, why is she talking her story? She's weird. All of these negative thoughts. But then when I finally did it, I did it. And nobody cared, nobody said anything. It was all in my head. I think it's really important to recognize that nobody really cares about what you do, which is a good thing, because then you can do whatever you want and nobody's gonna say anything. So from here, I experimented with my comfort levels. So first I did coaching, I built an audience on Twitter, I pitched to different big publications on the platform I was writing on called Medium. I built my own community membership, which was paid because I wanted to learn how to sell services online. I created free digital products like a Notion template that helps people track their writing topics so that later on they can see which topics are doing well. Lastly, I decided to dive into freelance writing. This is really the best time to do your research, make mistakes, and experiment, fail, learn while you have your money from your nursing job or whatever job you have. So how can you do this? You have to take small, scary actions. You have to be consistent in whatever it is that you choose to do, whether that's posting on things on social media, showing up for a small side business that you are hoping to start or have started. And you have to start telling people about your side hustle, whether that's in social media or in person, so that you don't feel isolated with this whole process, because it can feel a little lonely in this journey. So it's really important that you create your own system. For me personally, what I did is that I reached out to a couple of my friends who I know are into blogging, and every 2 weeks or so we actually meet up on Zoom to talk about our progress when it comes to publishing online. And that really helped kind of be together in this journey. And I suggest that you find similar people who are in your journey. If there's nobody in your real life, find people online. So the next step is figuring out how much money you need to live. Once you experiment and find the thing that you are really interested in and you've decided, oh, I want to make money out of this, you've gone all in, and it's time to kind of see, can you live off of this, whatever hobby or passion you choose. And you can do this by either offering it as a service or creating your own digital product. That's usually the 2 income streams that people make online. And you need to learn how much money you need to make to do that thing. After freelancing for about 3 months, I actually matched my part-time job. I invested in a coach whom I'll link in the description. I felt pretty confident in my skills as a freelance writer. If for whatever reason all my clients fire me or I run out of clients, I know how to get them again in a consistent way, in a reliable way, with an income that will support my living. That's why I'm also bullish on coaches. That's why I think they're so important. But again, this was only because I had figured out that I like writing. I figured that I wanted to make money out of this, which is why the first few steps of figuring out your own personal interests is so important. Now it's really important to see whether you can actually live off the hobby or passion that you chose. So you need to calculate your living expenses. For me, that's about $3,000 a month. And Number 2, really figure out a way how to make this money consistently, whether it's offering service, creating a product, or doing a mix of both, where you can have a service and make your own products, and then so that way you have multiple streams of income, which you will learn that many content creators actually rely on. So the next step is getting your finances in order and having backup plans. I'm not a financial advisor, and each of us have different comfort level with money. This part is all about figuring out your comfort level with money and setting up yourself for success and other emergency situations that might come when you don't have your job anymore. So you have to answer questions like, how much money do I need to make consistently in order for me to live? How much money do I need to have in my savings account so that I can comfortably leave my job? How much money do I need in my emergency savings so that I can be comfortable in quitting or not worry when I'm not making as much money in my journey? And what are my backup plans? Do I have any backup plans if things don't work out? Or what are my backup options? And the last question is just answering, am I financially well? Personally, these are the questions I had to ask myself before I was comfortable in leaving. I knew that I had to make at least $3,000 in my side hustle. I needed to have 6 months worth of savings and emergency in my account. I had to feel like I have backup plans such as travel nursing, working in clinic as a nurse. And lastly, I felt like in general, I'm financially literate, so I know how to manage my money. In that sense, I feel financially well. This part is really important because I'm not telling you to quit your job with nothing. I feel like that's a terrible advice. So you have to have a necessary conversation with yourself when it comes to money. You need to be comfortable with looking at your bank account and figuring out, can you actually do this? And finally, when the time comes, you have to take the leap, even if it's scary. Logically, the reasoning makes sense to leave your job, but emotionally it doesn't, and that's how it felt. I would encourage you to actually talk to your friends, your family, maybe invest in a coach or in therapy to actually figure out whether you want to do this. It's important to recognize that you're going to go through this whole process and that it's all normal. So it's really important for you to take care of yourself and surround yourself with a good support system around this time. Like I said at the beginning of this video, it may take you more than a year to go through this whole process. It's not a blueprint. These are things that I took for myself that I'm now sharing with you, and hopefully you can get some benefit out of it. These steps have worked for me. They might not work for you, but that's the whole point of this, is that you want to find something that will work for you, your personality, your lifestyle, the way you think, the way you see the world, and all of that. My hope is that it opens your eyes so that even though you're stuck in your current nursing career, you will be able to get out. This video has become so long, but I'm hoping to make another video on the mindset shifts that you're gonna need to make when you take this leap of quitting your job. If you're interested in that video, let me know in the comments below. I would appreciate it. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.